You are a combat veteran. You saw 25 years of service. You've been in some pretty heavy combat zones. Compare what you saw in Gaza to your previous experiences in combat zones.
So to the previous part of your earlier question, and now coming back on this, in my military career, I've been deployed 12 times. 9 of those 12 were in named combat war zone ongoing combat operations, directly a part of.
Yeah.
In my time, I'd seen places around the world such as Fallujah, Baghdad, Sadr City, Mosul, Anbar Province, Raqqa, Syria, Darwazar, Syria, Baghuz Fagani in Syria, all throughout Afghanistan. Never in my entire military career and all the places that I've been have I witnessed, experienced, or been akin to what I witnessed and experienced in Gaza. Without question, not even comparable. And the reason I say that is that, oftentimes prior to going to Gaza, I had seen pictures, I had seen reporting, but having been in a lot of war, I know that sometimes the images that are captured of things aren't necessarily the picture of all of it. Like, for example, in Raqqa. Raqqa was, for the most part, pretty heavily destroyed, but there was still life. There was still like functionality in the city.
Yeah.
In Gaza, nothing exists. The entire enclave has been annihilated physically, infrastructure, culturally, or there's no crops. The farmland has been destroyed and ruined. Every building has been crumbled and crushed to the ground. Nothing exists in Gaza in the greater enclave. The only part where there's still any semblance of life, and even that is hanging on a thread, is in Gaza City, where, as we speak, the IDF are going in and conducting their final assault into Gaza City. That too will not remain in the coming weeks. And
Yeah.
I've said this before in other interviews, and I'll say it again. A day of reckoning is coming. A day of reckoning is coming. That the world will get tired of the facade of everything's fine. Get tired of the narrative from the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation that there's no starvation and there's no shooting. The world will see. And when that day comes, which will be soon, I'm telling you, it will be in the coming weeks. And when that day comes, it will bring the world to its knees in shame for what we allowed to happen, for what we stood by and watched. And if we as a world don't do something about this now, we have no excuse when the truth comes out, when the world sees to say, oh, we didn't know. We knew.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, it is a live stream genocide. I think everyone watching this knows, and more people who I never expected to know. I think the public knows. It's simply our leadership and the Israeli leadership that is sort of existing in a delusional state. I really think that, Mike Huckabee, for example, or Benjamin Netanyahu, they believe their own lies about starvation. But you were on the ground and you say that you saw engineered starvation. Tell us what you saw.
So first of all, for my personal opinion, I'll say that I don't think Mike Huckabee and Witkoff believe that there's no starvation.
Really?
I think it keeps them up at night. I don't think they're evil people. I think that they're misled. I think that their loyalties lie to something greater than what it should lie. I think that their loyalties should lie to the people of the United States and to the conscience of humanity.
Yeah.
But I don't think they believe it. I don't think they believe it. The face on Mike Huckabee's, the look on his face when he was there and what he saw, he knows what he saw. He doesn't believe it. He says it, that there's no starvation, or that he doesn't believe it. Does Johnny Moore, the director of the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, believe that the mechanism is working? He doesn't believe it. If he believed it, he wouldn't hide. You know how many times he's been to Gaza? Once.
Yeah. This is the kind of crony Christian Zionist pastor who's close to Mike Huckabee. And, He's been a Trump endorser who was put in place of Jake Wood at the head of GHF, Johnny Moore. And
yeah, I tell you, I don't think they believe what they say. In fact, I know that at night it probably weighs on their conscience if they have one, and I think they do. Mr. Witkoff, Mr. Huckabee, Mr. Moore, Mr. Chapin Fay, the spokesperson for GHF,
yeah,
who I'm telling you that if anyone believes a word that man says, you probably need to look yourself in the mirror. Just look at the history of the things that man has said, and realize that what we're putting at stake as a nation, what we're putting at stake as a world, is our humanity. This is not a time for politics. This is not a time for double speak and narratives. This is not a time for what side of the aisle you're on. This is a time for humanity to be human. People are dying and starving and being killed. There are children, Amir, 10 years old. There are children that are starving to death. And anybody that says that that's not happening, you shame on you. I've said it before and I'll say it again. Shame on you.
You know, they're not always allowed to cross that pedestrian crossing, so today the IDF coordinated to allow them to come across to come and get aid, so they don't come on this side much. So you see they took the telephone pole light poles that we have on the other side of the camp. They took all of those poles down and took them with them. Down over there in the distance, they're pulling down a tree, taking that tree with them.
Don't push right the tanks over there.
we played some of the video that I think you shot while you filmed while you were at one of the so-called aid distribution hubs. I think it was around Rafah, and Khan Yunis might have been, or was it Khan Yunis? I can't remember which one, but you could hear in the background other U.S. security personnel, private contractors calling for the Israeli army, for the IDF to come in and to let some of them in. Mm-hmm. And so you were kind of, there was this communications line with the IDF and the Israeli army, but the Israeli army, as we've seen, has been killing people at these aid distribution hubs, firing tank shells, sniping at them. The featured image for this live stream was actually a photo taken by an Israeli soldier looking through his rifle scope at crowds of desperate aid seekers. What was was there any ability on your part to prevent the Israeli army from killing people? And what did you witness them do? And what is your perspective on the Israeli soldier after having dealt with them on such an intimate level?
Tactically on the ground at the sites, there was very little control or very little influence that I had at the tactical level. It would be, for example, if even in the American military, if I'm an infantry platoon leader and I'm in combat with my platoon, and someone else from another, let's say from a foreign army, comes in and tries to tell my platoon what to do, they're going to be like, we don't listen to you. So in terms of like influence or the ability to control at a tactical level, very limited.
Yeah.
But I'd like to share this with the audience. I've shared this before, and I will share it again in testimony. On the 8th of June, while I was in the control room, the control center in Karim Shalom, in the control center that's run by Safe Breach Solutions, the parent contract entity.
Yeah.
The UG Solutions had have representation in there that rotate on a duty basis. That was my duty day. That was my day of pulling duty in the operations center.
Yeah.
In that operations center, there are Israeli Defense Force liaisons that work and are assigned to that operations center 24/7. That work in that operations center that tell Safe Breach Solutions what to do. While we were in there, every distribution site has cameras. And these cameras at the distribution sites feed back into a large screen TV in the operations center, one per site. So at all times, it's like if you were watching a football game with, where cameras can go all the way right up to the quarterback throwing the ball. That type of detail in this operation center.
Wow.
On the 8th of June at Secure Distribution Site number 2. Secure Distribution Site number 2, so Secure Distribution Site 3 was near Khan Yunis. Secure Distribution Site number 1 was all the way in southern Rafah. And 2 is kind of nestled right in between there, which, if you really wanted to give it an area, would be probably southern Mawasi. But really southern Khan Yunis in its overall location. And it's the smallest of all 4 sites. It physically is the smallest. And it is the poorest constructed in terms of the entrance and the exit being very narrow, not a lot of room, not a lot of space. It's very congested, but also it's surrounded on both sides by 2 different Israeli combat units. It's a dangerous site. On this particular day, the crowding on the site was very was just swelling with crowding. People were being pushed into the barbed wire, pushed into the concrete. And this Palestinian man picked up these children, 3 children, and picked them up so they could step on his shoulders to step up on top of the barriers so they weren't being crushed.
Yeah.
All these 2 were under the age of 10. One was probably around 12 or 13. None of them were armed. None of them, they didn't have weapons, rifles, pistols, bombs, sticks. They had nothing. They had nothing. They didn't even have shoes. The older boy wasn't even wearing a shirt.
Wow.
And the Israeli Defense Force senior officer in the operations center back in Karim Shalom watching this came right up to me and he said, "Get on the radio and tell your men to get them down." Because I had part of that duty was communicating with the unit on the ground, the UG Solutions contractors on the ground. And I looked at him and I said, "Hey, calm down. They have it under control. They know what they're doing. These are children. It's not a threat. Get them down. Get them down right now." And I said, "They're addressing it. They're addressing it. I'm not going to call them on the radio to tell them to do something that they're already doing when they're already dealing with so much. And they're talking to them. Look, they're talking to them to get them down. Get them down now." And I said, "They're taking care of it." He goes back to his desk where there was a radio, speaks on the radio. I don't speak Hebrew, so I didn't understand what he said. One of the UG Solutions contractors in our operations center did speak Hebrew, and he tells me, he said, "Hey, he just told the snipers, the IDF snipers to get ready to shoot them." And I was like, "Shoot who? The kids?" He was like, "Yeah." So this officer comes back up to me and he says, "Get them down." And I looked at him and I said, Did you just give an order for your snipers to shoot these children?" And he said, "If you're not going to take care of it, I will." And I looked at him and I said, we are not, one, we are not shooting children. 2, you are not shooting at unarmed civilians. 3, you're not going to shoot into the site where if you miss, you're going to hit other civilians or maybe even shoot an American. You're not doing that. During this discourse, thank heaven, the children, the 3 children that were on the berm during that period had run to the end and jumped off. They didn't want to be there. They were be there. So they didn't want to be there either. So thank God we didn't have to come to the realization of what would have happened. But in that moment, it became very clear to me that this Israeli officer had zero issue, zero qualm consciously or morally or ethically in shooting unarmed civilians, but more so in shooting unarmed children. And in that moment, it became very apparent to me that the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation is an appendage of the Israeli Defense Force, not an entity for humanitarian aid, because the Safe Reach Solutions operations director in that control room then called me over. He said, "Hey, Tony, come here." And I stepped outside and he said to me, "Never say no to the client." And I said, what do you mean? And he said, "Don't say no to the client." And I was like, what are you talking about? Who's the client? And he said, the IDF is our client. We work for them. Do not say no to the client. And I said, well, first of all, the IDF is our client. I was like, that's news to me. I thought we were an independent entity delivering humanitarian assistance for the people of Palestine or for the people of Gaza. What do you mean the IDF is our client? And he's like, our contract with Israel is through the IDF. We work for them. And I was like, whoa. I was like, that's interesting. Didn't know that. And then he further explains that we don't say no to the client. And I said, so if the client is willing to shoot unarmed people, we say yes to that. He's like, we're not the ones shooting them. If they want to shoot at them, that's up to them. But we don't say no to the client. And I was like, that's a problem. That's a real problem.